What's going on, Eagles fans, and welcome to another episode of Eagles Latest. It is after Thanksgiving. I hope you had a wonderful holiday with your friends, your family, enjoying great food, great football, and great company. Now, the Eagles, they did not treat us to a feast of great football. It was quite the opposite on Black Friday. You were actually better off shopping until you couldn't stand anymore because that game on Friday was absolutely brutal. We're going to break it down a bit here in today's episode. As always, thanks so much for subscribing. If you haven't, make sure you do. Drop a like and drop a comment. I really want to hear your thoughts on Friday's game and your concerns, your worries. Do you think this Eagles team can fix everything that's going on right now? Because this snowball that started to slowly roll down the mountain is certainly generating some more momentum and picking up a lot more steam after losing back-to-back games now to Dallas and Chicago in really gut-wrenching and frustrating ways. So we're going to talk about it here a bit. The biggest question is this fixable? And I personally don't think it is at this point of the season. We're going to go through the game here. Chicago 24, Philadelphia 15. Not trying to rehash too much because, again, it was an ugly game. I was there on site covering it for Philly Sports Network, and it was just not enjoyable to watch this offense for yet another week, to be blunt. Jalen Hurts and this offense, they had a chance to right the ship against a Chicago Bears defense that ranked in the bottom 5 in points per game allowed, total yards allowed. They struggled to stop the rush. They had 3 of their off-ball linebackers out of this game, and the Eagles could not get Saquon Barkley going, and they could not get Dallas Goedert going against a team that has allowed nearly 7 catches per game against tight ends. And the Eagles have one of the best receiving tight ends in the league. And Dallas Goedert was barely involved. He finished with just 2 catches for 27 yards. So that's just the tip of the iceberg here as the Eagles fell on Friday. They are now 8-4 on the season and are sitting at the 3 seed in the NFC. They do get a little closer, though, thanks to the Rams' unexpected loss to Carolina on Sunday. But now the Chicago Bears are the kings of the NFC and, of course, now own the tiebreaker in the head-to-head against Philadelphia. But this score did not indicate the shellacking that the Bears put on the Eagles on Friday. If you're just looking at it from a surface standpoint, 24-15, you're saying, oh, that's not too bad. No, the Eagles absolutely got dominated from the first play of this game until the final whistle. The Bears just absolutely gashed them on the ground. They totaled 281 rushing yards. That's the most rushing yards allowed by a Philadelphia defense in a decade. We're going to talk about the defense here in just a little bit, but that really set the tone for the Bears, and they never looked back. It was amazing, quite frankly, that it was a 10-3 deficit for the Eagles with how poorly they played in the first half and then throughout the game. Jalen Hurts only threw for 230 yards. He threw 2 touchdowns, one of them being kind of a garbage touchdown, if you will, to A.J. Brown when the Bears were playing sticks defense. Hurts also gave away the football twice, an interception and a fumble on the tush push. We're going to talk about the tush push and the lack of success they've had with it this year, and maybe it's time to just put that one on the shelf later this week. But yeah, this is a team that just is not clicking. My opinion, when I was watching them and watching the body language, it looked like these players just simply do not believe in the game plan that is being implemented right now from a week-to-week basis. And that's not good, obviously. There's maybe some frustration with the quarterback and Jalen Hurts. Obviously, Hurts hasn't been playing his best this season. He has had some rough games, including Friday. The running game still can't going, and this was a game where you thought, okay, hey, Chicago gave up 92 yards to former running back Kenneth Gainwell, who was really a third down running back in his time with Philadelphia. 92 yards on 10 carries. That's a 9.2 yards per carry average. And you thought, all right, this is the game Saquon Barkley is going to get cooking. And he finished with a measly 56 yards on 13 carries. Tank Bigsby, who has shown some juice in the backfield, not a single carry. And I don't know why. I don't know if he's in the doghouse. I don't know why they don't use him in the limited sample size that we've seen Bigsby. He has been able to pop off some big runs. I don't know if they're afraid they're going to hurt Barkley's feelings by spelling him a little bit more as Saquon's trying to get out of this funk that he said himself that he's in. But nonetheless, you gave away 2 draft picks, albeit later round draft picks, to acquire Bigsby, and you're just not using him. So is that a play calling standpoint? Is that a schematic standpoint? It's really hard to tell at this point, but nonetheless, you're not using one of your better offensive players, even though it's a smaller sample size, in Tank Bigsby. A.J. Brown had himself a nice game again, 10 catches, 132 yards, 2 touchdowns. Devontae Smith, rather pedestrian game, 5 catches, 48 yards, but he seemed to be banged up throughout the week. He had that shoulder injury and the ribs and the back and then the illness. I mean, he had a laundry list of things next to his name on the injury report throughout the week, so it'll be interesting to see how he bounces back. The Eagles do have a little bit of a mini bye here with the extra time off and a Monday night game traveling West Coast to take on the Chargers. But this Eagles team just, I don't know if they're going to find a way to get this done offensively. You hear Nick Sirianni post-game on Friday. He was adamant that there will be no change at the play calling position with Kevin Patullo. And I reluctantly agree that it's not going to change anything, in my opinion. Maybe it does. But Nick Sirianni can't call plays, and they don't really have anybody on staff that has experience calling plays at the NFL level. So you gave the keys to a Ferrari to a novice driver in Kevin Patullo, and now you're going to basically ground a young driver because he's not keeping the Ferrari within the lanes and they're swerving all over, or in this case, just completely stalling out, and you're going to give the keys to another new driver. It just doesn't make sense. We saw this happen in 2023 on the defensive side with Sean Desai. They took away his play calling, or at least some of it. Jeff McClain came out and reiterated his report that year Nick Sirianni and the Eagles actually just stripped Desai of the third down calls on defense, which was a little odd. But nonetheless, they still made a change in the middle of the season. Matt Patricia took over, and it was just an absolute train wreck. And it more than likely will also continue to derail the offense if they do something similar here this season. So I don't know what the answer is. There's no magic wand to wave at the NovaCare complex to say, hey, we're going to fix this. And Nick Sirianni pointed it out Friday after the game. He said, hey, if this was just one thing that we have to fix, that we have to correct, we would do it. But it's multiple things, and he's right. Jalen Hurts is not playing his best football. The offensive line is just not good this year. That plain and simple. Because of the offensive line struggling, the running back and Saquon Barkley has been struggling, and it seems like he might be overcompensating a little bit as well. And as we mentioned, he has been in a little bit of a funk that he admitted to as well. So there's a lot of moving pieces, a lot of people and players to blame with this offense. I know a lot of people want to see change. I'm not against the change. I just don't think it's going to have the impact that many out there are hoping it will or would, just in the sake of making the change. So we'll see what happens. Nick Sirianni says and confirmed that there will be no play calling change with the OC Kevin Patullo. Jalen Hurts also mentioned a few times that they need to find an identity on this offense, and I couldn't agree more. And right now they simply just don't have one at all right now. So that is the offense in a nutshell right now, and I personally don't think this is fixable here this season. You might see some flashes like we saw at Minnesota, like we saw in that first quarter at Dallas, but I do not think that this team can figure it out because it just seems too fragmented at this point in time. Moving over to the defense now, a unit that I said last week, 2 weeks ago, I wasn't nervous about. Well, now it's getting a little peculiar on the defensive side because they have been gouged now for back-to-back weeks. We mentioned the rushing yards allowed, 281 yards on the ground, the most since 2015 by an Eagles defense. Kyle Monangai, the rookie running back, had 22 carries, 130 yards, and a touchdown. And old friend DeAndre Swift made his return to Philadelphia in a big way. 18 carries, 125 yards. He also found the end zone. And Swift also had a catch for 13 yards. And the Bears just manhandled this defense. In the trenches, second level, third level, lots of missed tackles, a lot of breakdown in terms of schemes, and just textbook tackling by this team. We'll talk about what Nakobe Dean and Jalen Phillips said in the locker room regarding the running game and why the defense struggled. But this is a defense now that you look at it, they are giving up a lot of yards. And you wonder, are they just tired of trying to bail out this Eagles offense? Now, obviously, they're never going to say, oh, yeah, we took the foot off the pedal. But right now, they gave up 425 yards of offense to the Chicago Bears. They gave up almost 500 yards of offense last week to the Dallas Cowboys. So those are 2 games in a row now where this defense has just been unable to stop the opponents. And this is when we thought the defense might be the calling card this year, when they held Detroit to that low point total. They held Green Bay to under 10 points. So like this is a defense that we're like, oh, let's go. This is what they're gonna win games on. Nakobe Dean was bringing that physicality, and the Bears basically just beat the Eagles in the style that Philadelphia would beat teams last year, and that is grounding and pounding opponents, and the defense just looked like they had no answers as well. So certainly something to keep an eye out for, because it's rare under Vic Fangio over the last season plus now to see the Eagles defense get gashed as badly as they've had over the last 2 weeks. Obviously, no Drew Makuba, which hurts. Sidney Brown just did not look good on Friday. He got lucky that Caleb Williams missed a couple of wide open touchdowns. He missed an open field tackle on one of the long runs for the running backs as one of the last lines of defense. And this is a team that needs something to work well. And when this defense isn't stopping teams, well, this offense, who's barely able to put up 20 points right now, it makes for a really bad recipe for the Philadelphia Eagles, and that's where we're at right now. So we'll see what happens with the defense. Very uncharacteristic of a Vic Fangio defense from what we've seen, at least in Philadelphia. But they need some answers quick, because that's 2 games in a row now where they have given up a lot of yards and points. And you don't have that much wiggle room when you're the defense, when the Eagles offense is struggling to score. Moving on into the locker room, some notes and quotes. Again, I was there on site and was able to talk to a bunch of players. It was a weird vibe, obviously. You walked in, you saw Kevin Patullo talking to Jalen Hurts in the corner of the locker room. Hurts would not disclose any conversation with Kevin Patullo, only saying at his press conference that they're all working hard to try and right this ship, essentially. When you walk right in, you got Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley, A.J. Brown. They're all together there. And the trio, they were hunched up in the middle with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith on his left, Saquon Barkley on his right. And it seemed like it was a more serious conversation. I'm sure those guys talk after every game, but it definitely seemed like there was more of a serious undertone to the conversation between those three. So we'll see. Maybe they're going to try and right the ship themselves. Maybe they're going to have a players meeting. Maybe they're going to just talk things out. Who knows what might pop up this week, but it was definitely noticeable when you walked in the locker room. Jalen Phillips, he was one of the first offenders to talk, and he simply said that the Bears did a lot of things schematically that the Eagles were not used to seeing. A lot of those angled blocks, the sideways blocking where they're moving left to right laterally, and that's what really allowed the Bears running backs to get those cutbacks and to hit those holes hard and pick up good chunkage of yardage. Phillips also said that, schematically it just wasn't working for the Eagles defense, and they're going to have to go back and learn how to defend those types of runs. And then basically the tackling wasn't up to par for the Eagles as well. And Nakobe Dean also mentioned that it was a bit of a tough sledding for the defense here on Friday, and they just didn't have an answer. And that's rare to hear from a Vic Fangio defense, but you hear it from Jalen Phillips and Nakobe Dean, and that's telling, in my opinion, that they just said, hey, we just could not figure out an answer with this team. So they got to figure it out. It comes down to technique and certain schemes, as they said. The misdirection also gave the Eagles defense a lot of trouble, and that's why you saw Swift and Monangai go for over 100 each in the game. So those were some quotes from the defense. Offensively, Saquon Barkley talked for a while. I thought one of the more interesting quotes that he gave, and I was unable to follow up, and I'm not sure if anybody else did. I'd have to double check, but he said that from the beginning of the game, it had a weird feeling. And I don't know if that's just him personally talking, or if he's saying that the vibe was off or the vibe was weird on the offensive side. I mean, that would check out the way that I read their body language from the press box. It just didn't seem like there was a lot of confidence going in. But yeah, I thought that was a little odd that Saquon Barkley said that. And then Dallas Goedert, he was asked by Jeff McClain about the success that other tight ends have had against the Bears, and Goddard said he was unaware of that he didn't know that the Bears struggled to stop tight ends this season. And then without three off-ball linebackers, you would think that would be a focal point of the game plan, and it just simply wasn't. So some head scratchers there in the locker room. Jalen Carter said that he struggled on the defensive side, said he didn't play his best game. He also kind of alluded that he was dealing with some things that he wouldn't get into with the media. So not sure if he'll divulge that throughout the week. But again, it just was not a good game overall from any aspect from the Eagles, to be frank. So we'll see how they bounce back. Again, they do have a bit of a mini bye. They played on Friday. They now don't play until Monday against the Los Angeles Chargers for Monday Night Football. And the question is, well, what do the Eagles do from here? And it's kind of a shoulder shrug. Maybe they make a change for the sake of making a change. I think that would appease a lot of fans. Nick Sirianni is sticking with his buddy Kevin Patullo, but you wonder if Jeffrey Lurie, who does not like to be embarrassed, kind of steps in and says, hey, Nick, no, we're going to make a change here because this is the second time now where we have elevated somebody within on your staff and it just hasn't worked. It's been awful. Brian Johnson was the first, and now you've got Kevin Patullo. So I don't know what's going to happen. I think this week's going to be very interesting. It's going to be very telling on what direction this team is going to go in. If they do continue with Kevin Patullo and this offense looks just as flat against the Chargers team, I think Nick Sirianni's seat's going to get hot. I think Kevin Patullo definitely will be losing his play calling duties if they end up losing this game in ugly fashion, because now you're looking at an 8-5 team after they were able to squeak away wins, and they were trying to just win at any cost, and they didn't care how it looked. Well, now they're not winning, and it's also looking really bad. And that creates tension, and it also creates a very short leash when it comes to who sticks around and who will stay calling the play. So we'll see exactly what happens. It should be a really fun week just to see what the team's doing, and we'll see how they react. I think that's one of the bigger things is how will they respond after getting punched in the mouth twice against Dallas and now Chicago. And now they're in a divisional race. They are only a game and a half now ahead of the Dallas Cowboys, who everybody thought they were dead, but they are far from it. They have a lot of confidence, and they just beat the Chiefs after they beat the Eagles, and they are feeling that they can make a run at this. So it's going to come down to the wire, I think, and these games are going to mean a lot more than I think some people may have thought down the road when the Eagles were sitting pretty at 8-2. So we will talk to you tomorrow with another edition of Eagles Latest. I'm your host, Cory Nidoh. As always, thanks so much for tuning in. Again, make sure you subscribe, drop a like, and a comment. Let me know what your thoughts are. I'll read them on the next episode and also answer some questions for you if you got them. As always, thanks for tuning in.